I'd like to welcome each of our speakers back onto the screen now for our next panel session. So Jordan, Dev, Ray, Chris, Corey, and John. So this session is going to last for maybe 15, 20 minutes or so. Viewers, if you already haven't, you may ask questions using the Q&A button, and we'll get to as many as we can. And just a reminder that at top of the hour, 2 o'clock, we will have our second keynote speaker. That's Nick PK from Horizons ETF. So, sorry, Nick Picard. So guys, I guess the first question that I have, many of the companies here have some project generator attributes, essentially selling or JVing projects to spread the risk around, get other people's money to work. How much of a focus is that strategy versus trying to make the next discovery? Why don't we kick it off with you, Jordan?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I mean, we've really grown our prospect generator business in the last few years. And, I'd say first and foremost, we are still out there looking to deliver and unlock value through the drill bit at our core projects. But it's a great complement, a secondary business, if you will. One of the key attributes of it too is that you do work with other technical teams, right? And so, ideally you can hand the reins off to the other companies, so it doesn't consume a ton of our time. Geologically, we stay focused at the core projects, but it's great to have some collaboration too. We've had other geologists that we've worked with take a look at our core projects, and there's a lot of collaboration with our team. So you do benefit from that. And so I won't speak on behalf of the other companies, but we are very much focused at our core projects, but it's a great secondary business.
Mm-hmm. And Dev, you've done the same thing. How do you differentiate between the projects you want to work yourself and how the projects you want other people to come in and work?
That's a great question. I don't think there's it's like what's good balance, and I think depends on the deal you're being offered, right? So, I think for us, PLN was an obvious because it's a lot of money and it's close to what we know. So when you're looking for partners, you have to look at their ability to raise money, what do they want, and their timing of what they're doing. There's a lot of factors in picking it, but I think it's good to have a flagship. For us, ours is PLN. We know it's right above where we found Triple R. We understand some of the conductors better. So I don't think there's an exact answer to that, but it's really a takeoff on what Rick told me when I first started Strathmore back in '6. He goes, ideally, you want to use your mind to get a property cheap and other people's heavier money for the heavy lifting. So that's kind of really a takeoff on what he's always suggested. But I agree with you that I think, you want 100%. And if you have 100%, you can then bring in partners and still have something left to sell. If and that's why, if you remember, we took over Alpha pretty early in the process. They had 50, we had 50. We had to have it in one spot. Then you can bring in a CGN or a Sumitomo or somebody else with even bigger money. So I think it's a question of, it's not always easy to do those things, but if you can, it's good to be able to spread the risk out.
Right. And I guess, Chris, the same question to you. However, most of your projects right now are 100% owned. So would you consider vending some of those off, getting other people's money to work?
Again, I think it goes back to Dev's point. It depends on the transaction and quite frankly, the point in time. I mean, I've always looked around and I thought all exploration companies were project generators, but maybe that's just me. The first go around, remember a lot of our primary projects were picked up during the last big bull run in uranium. And at that time, I mean, we looked at it many times, but we were very quick to see that the money we were able to get on the market was cheaper than the money we would have to sell our projects for. And that was the reason why we weren't vending a lot of projects out early on. We were able to raise all the money we needed to advance those projects. And we were able to spend enough on those projects to actually hang on to them and maintain them over the last 10 years when things were sort of drying up. So, you know, and again, I go back to Dev's point. I mean, you want to maintain control over a lot of these. You've got your own thoughts and ideas as to why you own them, why you stake them. They're all highly prospective, and you certainly don't want to hand it off before you've necessarily put a drill into it. But, you know, this market's a little different. You know, I think it's not ramping up with the same veracity as the last time around. There seems to be more of a pace to it, and a little bit more flexibility up and down in terms of what the equities are doing and the stock price. So, you know, this time around, we'd certainly, in order to get these projects moving it forward, yeah, we have been in discussion with a number of companies, and why not? I mean, if we've got projects that they can raise and deploy funds on and mine time to get them advanced, we're certainly considering that. But we've wound up in the situation we are purely because of how we came into it, and that's, you know, here we sit with all our 100% owned projects. I mean, understand, Hook Lake, we earned in on that one. That was one that we were earning in on. Cameco and Orano were looking for partners when, at that time, the money was more available to us than it was to even them from an exploration standpoint. So we were very fortunate to be able to get into that partnership early on. But you know, it's deal specific as to what you wind up doing.
Okay. And Corey, there's a specific question here about the Waterbury East project and JV with Terra Uranium. You know, they haven't IPO'd yet on the ASX. Are they still active? And I guess more broadly, how do you prioritize your portfolio of uranium, copper, nickel, and what to work and what not to?
Yeah, that's a great question, David. I won't get into all the details on behalf of Terra, but what I will say is that they couldn't get the listing done in time as per the arrangement in the deal, and that natural expiry time occurred. So, you know, that's fine. They've got their challenges. They know them. But it's all right. We're not under any kind of stressors in terms of assessment on those projects that were to be vended into them. But in the meantime, we've actually done an even bigger deal, perhaps a more important deal with Basin Energy that's going to bring in 15 million Australian on 3 brand new projects that we generated last year. That's that minimal cost to us, great ideas. We've brought in that level of funding, and they're moving through their process very well. So again, the clear line of sight is August, September. So, you know, one of the ways that CanAlaska was built on project generation, right? Back in the last cycle. Now we're moving some of the key ones where the response has been very positive forward with our own shareholders' money, very conscious of not diluting if we don't have to. We're in a very high risk environment in exploration, especially early stage. So you want to find ways to de-risk that. It's okay to have a portion of it. You don't need to have it all. Share that risk up front. And that's why we do some of these deals. Now, how do we prioritize uranium versus nickel? We're a uranium company. That is our forte. That's where we believe the best value is. But when no one wanted to talk about uranium, let alone generate projects for the last 10 years, we turned to nickel because we saw what was coming. And we created this portfolio that is truly district scale. And you've got big companies out there now looking for nickel projects, and they don't want postage stamps. They want district scale stuff. And we've got that. So it's very attractive. So we're trying not to spend too much of our money in the nickel space because we hold our investors' money for uranium. But we do light prep work in order to do that deal or the next deal in the nickel space to bring outside value in and share that risk for discovery. So it's a balancing act, judgment calls, knowledge, technical teams. You know, it's a real balance in there. But we think we do it fairly well because we're having a lot of success bringing in that outside investment.
Yeah, and then John, I asked the same question to you. I wouldn't necessarily consider you a project generator, however, but you do have 5 projects and you're focused on, I'd say, 2 of them. So,
sure. Let me answer that one, Dave. First of all, it's a balancing act, and I think some of my peers have answered this quite nicely as well. Look, we've got our flagship, and that's one we're going to be spending the majority of our money on. We're working on that right now. Our northern project, Sundog, We went up there, a year and a half ago and had, found radioactive boulders at surface at 3.5%. So that's interesting. And that's drawn a lot of attention. And for us going up there and de-risking it by getting our permits and getting our First Nations agreements and showing the logistics can be proved out to do a program, that's generated some interest. So we're getting a lot of inbound calls from companies in North America, from Australia, that would like to work on that project with us. So we're looking at options. Some of our shareholders would like to see us have some more money come in from outside sources to advance projects so we can focus primarily on our flagship. And then we've got our Eastern Basin projects as well, which are exciting. And we want to move those along a little bit further on the value chain and add value before we look at possibly getting some partners to work on those. And on top of that, we're looking at projects by some of our peers. We're also getting approached because we've got a very talented young technical team of 5 geos who are very well respected in the Saskatchewan area. We're getting approached by some of the majors in this region asking us to work on their projects. So we're looking at projects right now where we could be involved with and and working on those. So it's an exciting time for Standard Uranium. We've got lots going on, and we like the idea of also working with partners and spending their money to advance our projects, add more shareholder value. So that's our plan, Dave.
Okay, great. Thank you. And, I think ESG is an important consideration for a lot of these junior exploration stocks in the Athabasca. Namely, I'm going to point out the Clearwater River Dane Nation. They showed concern last year that a lot of uranium companies were essentially descending or crossing their traditional lands. So at least in the Western Basin. So, how do your teams approach community consultation to keep them on side? So why don't we start with you, John? We'll go backwards on this one.
Yeah, perfect. So listen, when we started this company 5 years ago, first thing I did was travel up to the Clearwater River Dane Nation and meet Chief Clark and start building that relationship. For us, look, if we're going to work in their territory, we want to have strong relationships. We don't want to have any hiccups. We want to make sure we're all succeeding. We're all benefiting from this. So building that relationship up front, getting those agreements in place, and then working with them, hiring them to work on our projects for vendors. We always stay at Big Bear Camp, which is run by the CRDN and Chief Clark. And I know our friends at Fission and Fission 3.0 use that as well. It's a beautiful camp. We share the experience and we love working there with our peers. And it's a great way to give back to and employ First Nations people as well. So for us, building that relationship up front, being there early, getting that trust and working with them and showing them that you actually do the things you say you're going to do and actually following through and supporting them on their initiatives. So we've done a wonderful job. We're doing the same thing up north at Sundog with the Yapanini Group. We are very close to finalizing an exploration agreement and allowing us to continue to work in that region and make sure we employ people and give them opportunities to benefit from the work we're doing. So it's crucial. I mean, there's a lot of new companies showing up in the basin right now, planting their flag and saying they're going to do exploration and drill programs. And from my experience, it takes a lot more than just showing up and putting out news releases. You've actually got to do the work and build those relationships. So we're really proud of the work we've done, and we're proud of the partners we work with in the region.
Absolutely. Corey, before we get to you, maybe Chris, if you can have a comment here, because you're in the same ballpark with Hook.
Yeah, and I think it mirrors a lot of what John is saying, and I think everybody here on the panel has been working up in that area long enough that we all know how to operate with our neighbors, and I think it's not a visit, it's an ongoing dialogue. It's hiring locally, it's communicating, it's meeting with them regularly and making sure that they know what you're doing. And any of the issues that we've run into up there or that we talk to them about tend not to be the people you're seeing on the panel here today. Their issues come more about, seeing some stranger wandering across their back field or whatnot with a scintillometer on their back or something. And they're just not aware that who's working up there. So, I mean, like I say, the people that are here are all, we're all pretty good community folk, and we keep everybody abreast of what we're doing. The concern is, and this happened before and it'll happen again, when you do start seeing a lot of people coming into the area who don't know the rules of engagement, who don't know who's who or what's what, and may not even have a permit yet to be out there, are they, next thing you know, they're wandering around probably doing things they shouldn't be. So we've never had issues with any of the bands and any of the chiefs, so long as we kept talking to them and kept them aware of what we're up to.
And Dev, you've been doing this a long time at PLS and PLN. Anything to add on the same topic?
I think talk is cheap. I think that I hear the same stuff all the time from people, and the reality is that let's put ourselves in. Let's take a more empathetic approach. Let's say you lived in an area and millions and maybe 50 million is being spent in the area, and your schools aren't better and the roads aren't better, I'd be a little pissed off too. Okay, so let's just stop this blah 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 stuff and let's look from their perspective, and then we have a different approach rather than us them, it's us. So we've taken that approach from day one. When Chief Clark first came to us, he said couldn't get it set up. We said we'll pay for it. We built that camp for him as you run it. So talk is cheap, and I hope everybody involved in this takes it quite seriously of how we can make the community better. You have to leave things better than you find them. We talk about raising 5 million, 10 million. Let's look at how we can leave this community better than we leave it, because, once some of us find it, we're going to sell it to somebody, they'll build the mine. And so I just encourage everybody to have a very empathetic and honest approach and actually back it up with words. Back up the words with actions.
Yeah. Okay. Corey, how does CanAlaska approach community consultation and social outreach?
Yeah, David, I'd say very, very similar ways. I can echo all of that, but for me, I think it all starts with communication and dialogue and just getting respective understandings of both positions, and that's just communication. And I think too often, as others have mentioned, that communication falls by the wayside. And that drives trust and respect and understanding. And, that's key. That's key, because that drives all the future, that drives all the future interactions that you'll have in anywhere in this space. And finding employment opportunities, absolutely critical. Finding contractors you can use that are local, that provide that immediate benefit back to the communities through other means is critical. It's an evolving space. It's dynamic. It's not just unique to Saskatchewan. It's around the world, to be honest. I learned very early in my career overseas that more often than not, you don't press your agenda for the first 2 or 3 meetings. It's all about getting to understand each other, know each other, almost like a family situation where you get to just understand you as an individual or a community, and then you can move forward with the business aspects. And I think too often new players come in and they try and force it, plant the flag, push the agenda. Just let it evolve, but lots of communication, lots of opportunity to share, and dialogue is key.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was about to ask Jordan here from Skyharbour. How has community consultation evolved over the past 10 years since working at Moore?
It's a great question. We acquired Moore back in 2016, started working on it in 2017, and we were highly active. And it's continuous engagement, right? You want to be proactive. I think, we've covered most of the points here. Certainly employment opportunities and making sure you're using local contractors, suppliers. There's a very skilled workforce in northern Saskatchewan. There's a long history of mining. I think also having people on the team that have again, we talk about experience, having years and years, decades and decades of experience. That goes a long way, because those are people, whether it's, consultants, geologists, management that have been working up there that people know, right? And they've built a good reputation, and I think that goes a long way. But it's continuous engagement, and we're active, needless to say, across our properties, as are our partner companies across their properties.
Perfect. Okay, well, let's leave it there, guys. We've gone over for about 5 minutes, but all good. So thank you for a great discussion.